The N3 highway between Durban and Johannesburg has been closed recently due to the looting and also the attacks on trucks. Let's get an update now from Thania Dhoogra, Operational Manager for the N3 Toll Concession. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Talk to us about how long the N3 was closed completely, and then just tell us which parts have now opened up.
Hi, Sally. The N3 toll route was closed in its entirety from approximately 9 p.m. last night, and we've reopened the northern section between Harrismith and Heidelberg just after 1 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, so Harrismith, between Harrismith and Heidelberg is open, but the rest in both directions, does that remain closed?
Yes, unfortunately, the rest of the route, southbound, the southern section of the route between Sadara and Harrismith remains closed to traffic because the areas are still rather too volatile, and in the interests of safety and security of road users as well as staff and service operators, we've been advised to keep it closed.
All right. So talk to me about, let's say a truck is loaded with goods from the Durban harbour and is due to make their way up to Johannesburg. What would happen? Will they be able to get through?
No, unfortunately they won't. They will be turned around at this point. If they do make it past Sadara, they would be turned around at Howick and returned to where they've come from or diverted to another place of safety.
So what sort of security concerns are there on the route? I mean, is it just purely precautionary at this stage? We know that like 35 trucks were burnt and were attacked. But what sort of incidents are you spotting on the N3? Which are the areas that you're most concerned about?
Well, Mooi River is one of the biggest areas at this stage. It still remains volatile from the information that we have, and the concerns are that it could obviously spill over into the toll plaza area. We've also had reports of sporadic unrest in Escort, Bergville, Van Rieenen, and in the vicinity of Interbosway in Harrismith. Fortunately, all of those were able to be contained fairly quickly, but again, the threat still remains. And as long as there are those security concerns, and while we're waiting for the area to be stabilized, it's in the best interests of the public and ourselves that the area remains closed.
So, you know, yesterday I spoke to the Road Freight Association, and I understand it's up to each individual company to decide if it's safe to put a truck on the road. But obviously, if the N3 is mostly closed, you're not going to get through. Or are you seeing a lot of trucks trying to use sort of different routes, different ways to get to and from Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal?
Well, I can't obviously comment about the rest of the province, but some of the information that we have is that some of the alternative roads are also affected and blocked, especially those clearer to a lot of communities. So what we have seen, I have seen some traffic statistics this afternoon, excuse me, but the volumes are extremely low. I think at this stage, everybody is heeding the caution that they should try and avoid travel on the route as long as possible until the situation is stabilized.
Can you give us an idea of how many trucks normally travel this route?
Well, I can give you an idea that just before the lockdown, we were processing on average 3,500 vehicles per direction per day on the route.
Okay, so that would include trucks and civilian cars and that sort of thing as well. So what does that mean? What are you hearing in terms of getting goods up to Johannesburg?
Well, at the moment, I don't think that anything's really being able to travel at all unless people are attempting alternatives, which, as I said, I can't really comment about. But our information is that there isn't really any alternatives at this stage. So there aren't many goods that are traveling unless, of course, they're traveling between Harrismith and Heidelberg.
What about safety concerns for people living in the small towns dotted along that route? Let's say they need to get onto the highway to get to a hospital, or they need to evacuate for another reason. Are they simply stuck?
Well, I mean, there are alternatives in play, and, you know, together with law enforcement, there would be facilities made available to evacuate people if it does become necessary. And obviously for emergency services, there are arrangements already in place to facilitate their passage through the toll plazas if it is necessary.
How long do you think the N3 will be mostly closed in this way? Is it possible to give us an idea?
It's unfortunately not possible for me at this stage. We are still waiting for information from the Provincial Joint Operations Centre with regards to the deployment and the mobilization of the Defence Force and the assistance of SAPs in stabilizing the area. As soon as they have managed to do so and we're able to ensure the safety of the route and that it's, for travellers, we will do so and it will be reopened.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that update. So there you heard it. It really is not possible to take the N3. And while there are parts open between Harrismith and Heidelberg, that's in a northerly direction, my understanding is that generally it is not really possible to travel that route, certainly if you're going from one province to the other. And that was Thania Dhoogra, Operational Manager for the N3 Toll Concession.